everyone, welcome back to From the Bookshelf for our first book club book. We are going to be starting with The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. It's the first book in the Mortal Instruments series and the first book in the Shadowhunter Chronicles universe, which has so many books it's hard to even count off the top of my head, at least 15. So we're going to start with City of Bones. So part 1, which is this episode, we're going to be looking at chapters 1 through 3. And as you can see, I have lots of things I want to talk about with this book. Before we get started, if you have any recommendations on books you want me to go through and look at and talk with you about, then leave them in the comment section down below for future video ideas. So let's get started. And pretty early, we're going to start on page 1, chapter 1, Pandemonium. So this one is more of just thinking. It starts off with Simon and Clary going to a club on a Sunday. And the thing that is strange for me is the fact that it says that it was a long wait to get into the all ages club, especially on a Sunday, as if Sunday is busier than any other day. I would think that most clubs, especially in a place like New York City where the book takes place, would be busier on a Friday or a Saturday night rather than a Sunday, as Sunday leads into Monday, which is usually a school day or a work day. So for this one, it's just kind of odd that it would be on a Sunday. If they waited to Saturday, it wouldn't even be a thought. So then we're going to move on to the next thing. So they are looking at this part. So it says there's a boy that she's talking about that she sees in line. He had electrical blue dyed hair that stuck up around his head like the tentacles of a startled octopus, but no elaborate facial tattoos or big metal bars through his ears or lips. So she's talking about what he looks like, and then what she says people who usually frequent this club look like. I mean, I know we're in New York City, but the idea that all these people with facial tattoos are just kind of like roaming around the city. Face tattoos, I don't really see as kind of a normal thing. I mean, I guess maybe as a subset at this club, everybody going there is kind of more like that. But even in New York City, I feel like face tattoos aren't as common as it would seem. It's pretty surprising outside of like rappers and things like that who make out a career out of that kind of thing that would usually get face tattoos. So I just think it's interesting that she makes a note to say that these face tattoos are normal, because I've never really seen it like that. But I don't know. Like I said, I've never been to New York, so I don't know. If you're from New York, let me know if that would be kind of a not so weird thing to see. And then we're going to move to chapter 7. So we see Clary. She sees Alec and Jace walking through the club, following the boy that she saw at the beginning. And it says she stands on tiptoe to see over the crowd to watch them. Now, mind you, Clary is barely over 5 foot. As someone who is 5 foot, if I were in a dance club, there's no way I could see over anybody's head, on tiptoe or otherwise. I would need like a ladder to see over people's heads. So I don't really find that believable, because 5'2", which Clary is still super short. That's like barely taller than me. So the average person probably being about 5'8" or so, tiptoe isn't going to make her see over their heads, especially in a dance club where people are moving and dancing and that kind of thing. So unless she's like at the side of the dance floor where there's not very many people in front of her, that's really, she's really not going to be able to see no matter how hard she tries, unless there's a clear line of sight. It's not really that big of an issue. it's just interesting to note, because as someone who is as short as Clary, I can understand and I can see kind of from that perspective. So then we have this this quote from Simon. This is something I think is hilarious, because Simon's just like, sometimes I don't think he tries to be funny, he just says things and he's just legitimately hilarious. So Simon is talking to Clary and she's ignoring him because she's busy watching Jace and Alec follow this guy. So Clary shouts out his name and seized his arm. What? Simon looked alarmed. I'm not really sleeping with your mom, you know. I was just trying to get your attention. He automatically thinks she's freaking out because he's sleeping with her mom. Of course that's not true. He's Simon. He's making a joke. He's trying to get her attention. I just thought it was hilarious. Just that he would say something like that. And then the fact that he thinks Clary believes it. Because obviously it's not true. These guys are like 15. He might be 16. Alright, let's move on. So the next thing we have is this great description of Jace. Kind of like seeing like who he is. Like first time Clary sees Jace in the Pandemonium Club, kind of as like shadow hunter and doing the things he does. It's a great description. It says, there was something fierce about the gesture, something that reminded Clary of documentaries she'd watched about lions on the Disney Channel, the way the big cats would raise their heads and sniff the air for prey. So this idea that Jace is this dangerous predator, but also graceful, because when you think about large predatory cats, you think grace as well as dangerous. And I love that description of him, because that kind of is who he is. He's a big, dangerous predator, but he's also, you know, graceful. And you'll see more of that throughout the books. And if you've read them, then you definitely know what I mean about that. And so as we move on, we get this moment with Isabel. As I first read this book, City of Bones, I wasn't a huge fan of Isabel. She's definitely a fan favorite for a lot of people in the fandom. But when I read this book, I didn't really like her. And we'll see, and I'll talk about a lot of that and those kind of things as to why. She's definitely grown on me. And moving forward in the series, she's definitely changed her perspective on Clary. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Why she didn't like Clary and all of that. So so Clary interrupts the Shadowhunters with the demon because she sees them attacking a boy, a teenage boy, and not a demon, and Jace gets hurt. So what we see is Izzy basically attacking Clary, who she thinks is just your regular mundane, which is basically your regular human, right? So Clary turned to run and found her way blocked by Isabel, whip in hand. The gold length of it was stained with dark fluid. She flicked it toward Clary, and the end wrapped itself around her wrists and jerked tight. Clary gasped with pain and surprise. So we actually see Isabel physically attacking Clary simply because she doesn't understand the situation. Like, shadow hunters are supposed to be protecting mundanes from demons, but here we see Isabel attacking her as if she were a threat or she were a problem. And it's like, she's a mundane, right? She doesn't understand. She thinks you're attacking a teenage boy. Of course she's going to do something. It's just one of the things where we see this prejudice that shadow hunters have, thinking that they're superior to both mundanes and downworlders. We see this again on the next page when Jace says that she has already seen everything. Isabel says, so what do you want me to do with her? Like, what is she implying here? Is she saying, what do you want me to do? Should I kill her? I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like, right? I mean, It's hard to think that these are our heroes. These are the characters we're supposed to love and like and root for. And here she is. And here Isabel is talking about, should we kill this mundane because she got in our way and somebody got hurt? Nobody's dead. The demon's dead. But should we kill her because she got in our way? It seems a little excessive and quite a bit much of a reaction. Just to me. All right, so next we have Simon. So after this incident with the Shadowhunters, Clary gets kicked out of the club because nobody else can see them. And Simon seems extremely upset, especially for someone who didn't even want to be there in the first place, who only went because Clary wanted to go, right? So he says, I doubt they'll let us back in. And he seems legitimately upset. He seems like he wants to go back in, but he doesn't. He doesn't like the club. He doesn't want to be there. And yet, for some reason, he's upset that they got kicked out. I don't know. A little interesting kind of thinking about that. Is it just because he doesn't like being kicked out of places? Who knows? All right, so let's move on to chapter 2. Secrets and Lies. So here, this is more of like a technical thing, whereas Simon calls Clary on her house phone. These kids have cell phones. This is like, I believe it takes place in like 2012 or 13, maybe earlier than that. So this takes place this book takes place in 2007. There are definitely cell phones. We even know Clary has a cell phone in a later chapter where she tries calling her mother and on the cell phone. So if she has a cell phone, why is Simon calling her on a house phone and not her cell phone? It just seems kind of strange because she is a teenager, mind you. So teenagers don't go anywhere without cell phones. Trust me. Adults these days don't go anywhere without their cell phones. So next we have Simon's definition of a favor. Like, Simon needs to rethink his definition of a favor. He's in a band. He has bandmates. One of them, Eric, is a poet. We'll get to that later on how terrible it is. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. It's like the most horrible poetry in all of poetry. And Clary doesn't want to go to his poetry reading because it's embarrassingly terrible. But Simon says, it's not a favor. It's just a poetry slam. Well, she's doing something she doesn't want to do. It's literally the definition of a favor. She's doing something for you that she doesn't want to do. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just, let's think about that. She's doing you a huge favor by supporting Eric, who I'm not sure she even really likes that much. All right, so let's move on to our next spot. So Simon says, that means you see the world in ways that other people don't. It's your gift to see the beauty and the horror in ordinary things. It doesn't make you crazy, just different. There's nothing wrong with being different. And I completely agree with that sentiment. There's nothing wrong with being different. I think everyone is weird in their own way, and it's great. Nobody wants to be the same as somebody else. I mean, people do, but our uniqueness, the things that make us different, are the greatest things about us. But in this thing, her being able to see, the horror in ordinary things, I think has a lot also to do with her Shadowhunter sense and the sight. Whereas she sees things sometimes, I think, that other people don't because of that. And it does make her special. But I also think being special is something we should celebrate because it's what makes us better as people. It's what makes us more tolerant, being able to look at our differences and saying the differences I have are good, so the differences you have should also be good. So let's move on. So that being said, Clary is talking about being short and what that means to her. She says, Claire, this is Clary thinking to herself, she knew she wasn't beautiful like her mother was. To be beautiful, you had to be willowy and tall. When you were as short as Clary was, just over 5 feet, you were cute. Not pretty or beautiful, cute. As someone who's short, I definitely don't agree with that. I mean, I can see why she thinks that. I think a lot of girls and women out there think that these tall, beautiful models are the image of beauty. I don't think that necessarily is true. I mean, being short doesn't automatically mean you can't ever be beautiful. And I hate the idea that just because you're short, that means there's something wrong with you. And as I said, being short, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. So being someone who's short, to think that there's something wrong with me because I'm short and I'm not tall, that's something I don't think girls should feel the need to want to change, because you can't change your height. You can't make yourself taller. You can't make yourself shorter. So you shouldn't hate that about you. So then we have this moment with Clary's mother the next day. Seems like she was getting madder about something she did the previous night. Clary said to her, I already apologized. What is this about? If you're grounding me, get it over with. So I don't understand what she's upset about. I mean, her going to the club. It sounds like they go to Pandemonium all the time. I believe it's summertime. So if she goes out on a Sunday night, is that what her mom's mad about? That she went out? It never really says. And it's kind of weird because it seems like she was allowed to be out. But her mother's mad, not because of something Clary did, but because something that's going on over here that Clary knows nothing about. So why is Clary apologizing for something that she's allowed to do? So next we have, I'm going to bring this up a few times throughout because this is one thing that bothers me, that so Jocelyn has these scars as a former shadow hunter because of the runes and stuff like that have faded, and Simon brings them up. He says she does have those scars, and Clary says she has what? Like, so Clary doesn't see them, but Simon does. And my thought here is even if this had to do with Clary not being able to use the sight because of what Jocelyn does, that shouldn't matter because Simon can see them. Simon doesn't have the sight. Simon's just your perfectly average mundane. Like, he's the most mundane of mundanes that there is. So if he can see them, why can't Clary? He's not using his sight to see them. And if what's been done to Clary is just stopping her sight, then she should be able to see the scars. And I'll bring that up later as well in future sections. So now we have chapter 3, which is Shadowhunter. Let's see. So on this one, all right. So now we're going to get to Eric and his poetry. So let me read you this little section of his poetry, and then you'll understand how horrible it is. Come, my foe juggernaut, my nefarious loins, slather every protuberance with arid zeal. Yes, you heard that. Like, I don't even know. Like, even Simon is so embarrassed that he tells Clary to not tell anyone that he knows him. So if somebody's not doing him a favor by showing up, we don't know what a favor is, right? Because that was just terrible. Like, juggernaut, and using the words nefarious and loins together in the same phrase is just wrong on so many levels. So many. You can't even. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. All right, so So here, Clary sees Jace again after the night before. So she describes him this way. Pay close attention. He was wearing the same dark clothes he'd had on the night before in the club. His arms were bare and covered with faint white lines like old scars. So she can see Jace's scars, but not her mom's. Like, I realized that the magic is starting to wear off and she's seeing things within the shadow world, but the fact that she sees his scars, he's not glamoring them. And that's, I think, the main point, is he's not glamoring the scars. If you can see him, because Shadowhunters can glamour themselves, and mundanes can't see them unless they have the sight. So he's glamoring himself completely as a whole. He doesn't glamour his scars. Like, you see those no matter what. So she basically should be able to see it. She can see Jace's, and Simon can see her mom's. It just seems strange. I know, I'm harping on this. Let's move on, right? But still, it's still strange. It's still strange. Come on. All right. So, Hodge sent Jace to go find Clary, right? Get this straight. Alex suggested they take her to the Institute previously. Hodge sent Jace to go get Clary, and yet in both the movie and the show, it was always just reckless Jace going after Clary and bringing her back to the Institute. No, it wasn't. It was not Jace's idea. Jace did it because he was told to. So, anyway, so this is Jace talking about why he's there to see Clary, right? Because Hodge thought you might be dangerous, but if you are, you certainly don't know it. And this is true. So Hodge sent her. And this is definitely foreshadowing of what's to come. The fact that he's saying, he thought you might be dangerous. If you are, you don't know you are. And that's the thing, is if you've read this series, you know that there's something very special about Clary. She is a shadow hunter, but she's not your average shadow hunter. There's something special about her, just like there's something special about Jace. But I won't go into that right now. We'll talk about that more later on in this book and later books. But she's definitely special. There's something to Clary that makes her dangerous. And it seems like Hodge knew it. Well, I think Hodge already knows it. But Clary doesn't. Jace doesn't. Nobody believes it. But you just wait. So, I believe that is... So, we have one last thought before the end of the chapter. And so, Clary just found out that something is going on with her mom, something horrible. And there's something wrong with her phone. So, she grabs Jace's, or what she believes to be Jace's phone. And Jace says, tell me what happened. I can help you, right? He says, I can help. Tell me what's going on. And what does Clary do? Instead of telling him and asking for help, Clary, a hot tide through her veins, without even thinking about it, she struck out at his face, her nails raking his cheek. He jerked back in surprise. Tearing herself free, Clary ran toward the lights of 7th Avenue. So, Jace is there, offering help, and she attacks him. It's like, okay, why don't you want his help? Like, clearly he has the ability to help you, and he's offering to help you, and she doesn't just pull herself away. She literally, like, rakes her nails down his face, cutting him up. Like, legit attacking him. Why? Because he offers to help. Okay. Maybe she was just so upset, she didn't really think about it, and she just wanted to get out of there, but it's strange, right? Alright, so that's it for this part. We'll have part 2 coming up, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for sticking around, listening to what I had to say about the first 3 chapters of City of Bones. If you have any thoughts or opinions, then go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll read through them, let you know what I thought about your comments, and let's talk about it. So until next time,